Robert Fico has had enough of Volodymyr Zelensky's accusations. In a defiant social media post, the Slovakian Prime Minister fired back at Ukraine's leader, calling out the arrogance and impudence of Zelensky's remarks following their tense exchange at the EU summit in Brussels, wherein Zelensky said that Fico is fighting for money.
Nothing surprises me anymore. We are fighting for lives. Fico is fighting for money, and hardly for Slovakia's money. Shadow agreements with Putin are either a trade of state interests or working for personal gain.
Fico made it clear he's not Zelensky's subordinate, nor a servant to be ordered around without reciprocity. What began as a polite diplomatic meeting between the two leaders swiftly escalated into a public feud, with Fico accusing Zelensky of using social media to launch further personal attacks.
President Zelensky attacked me at a public press conference, informed the public about the content of our conflict, and continued to do so in an optional contribution on social networks, where he was even more arrogant and daring. Mr. President Zelensky, I understand the pressure you were exposed to. I understand that the West gives you practically everything you ask for, but I am not your subordinate servant who cannot give his own opinion, and who should only help you and not expect anything from you.
The latest clash between the two leaders stems from a growing dispute over gas transit and energy supplies. Zelensky's announcement that Ukraine would halt gas transport to Slovakia by January 1st, 2025, has sparked a furious reaction from Fico. The Slovakian Prime Minister, who has long opposed Ukraine's stance on energy policy, described the move as a political maneuver that harms European unity. He likened it to nonsense in a dirty basket, highlighting the broader economic consequences for Europe, which could face a staggering €120 billion bill for the disruption of Russian gas supplies.
Well, nonsense like water in a dirty basket, but we will have to get used to it with the Ukrainian president. What does this purely political decision of the Ukrainian president mean, and what is behind it? Is it principality? But where is it? He only has a grudge against the member states of the European Union, and I am shocked that the whole of Europe is eating it. Total of incredible €120 billion will be paid by Europe for stopping the flow of Russian gas to Europe through Ukraine, and then subsequently through Slovakia to other European countries. It is an extremely expensive gesture that we will pay in the European Union.
The dispute took a further turn when Fico threatened to cut off electricity to Ukraine in retaliation for the gas transit halt. After January 1st, we will assess the situation and the possibilities of reciprocal measures against Ukraine, Fico warned, suggesting that Slovakia might stop supplying Ukraine with the electricity it so desperately needs.
If after January 1, Slovakia stops importing gas through Ukraine and leads to the consequences of which I have now openly spoken and against which I am fighting where possible, please do not turn to the government of the Slovak Republic, but turn to the government of the President of Ukraine and to the government of all member states of the European Union, which, in exchange for the damage to the Russian Federation, go to this economic suicide. After January 1, we will assess the situation and the possibilities of reciprocal measures against Ukraine. If this is inevitable, we will stop the supply of electricity, which Ukraine desperately needs in case of a power outage, or we will agree on another approach.
This intensifying rift comes just weeks after Fico's offer to host peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. Fico, who has been aligned with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán in his pro-Russia stance, remains unwavering in his belief that the conflict in Ukraine must be resolved through diplomacy, not military escalation.
I do not belong, nor do I want to belong, to Western politicians who openly support the war. I will never agree to weaken and disperse Russia in the name of any geopolitical interests and dreams, killing Slovaks at the same time. It is incomprehensible to me that the Ukrainian president rejects what is only an example, It is incomprehensible to me that Ukrainian political leadership is driving the whole of Ukraine into a catastrophe. Because the negotiating position of Ukraine is getting worse every day, and Ukraine will pay a huge price for this Western adventure in the form of the loss of territory and the presence of foreign troops.
Fico's rhetoric has placed him squarely at odds with much of the European Union as well as NATO allies. As the war in Ukraine grinds on, his vocal opposition to Western support for Kyiv has made him a polarizing figure, particularly within the EU's circle.